is Dr. Iferegelachiru, all the way from London. Talk to Dot. My channel is about domestic abuse. I try to create awareness about domestic abuse, domestic violence, how to identify red flags so that you don't make a mistake, how to understand the sort of relationship you're in, and what to do if you wanted to come out, and what life is afterwards. So today I have with me interviewing one very, very amazing person. Her name is Angelena. She is amazing. She knows the ins and outs of domestic abuse, narcissism, you name it. She knows it. I'm so excited to have her here today and be interviewing her. It's such an honor. But without me talking too much, I'd let you introduce yourself to everyone. You tell us more about yourself.
So my name's Angelena Lewis. I'm a life coach and author, and I encourage women to level up and live more empowered after relationship or life challenge. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, so humble, very, very brief, you know. Okay, right. I'm so grateful to have you here. You look amazing. You know,
Thank you.
You look awesome. You know? What's the weather like out there?
It's hot. It's hot. It's always hot. The UAE, it's always hot.
Okay, it's hot in England, but you know what I mean when I say it's hot in England anyway.
Right. This is desert hot. It's desert hot in the UAE.
No comparison. Right, so today we want to talk about narcissism and narcissism and narcissistic abusive relationship. And this is one area that I know that you know the ins and outs. And I just have a few questions that I keep getting, and I'd like to ask you those questions and hear it from your point of view and how you define it.
Okay, go for it.
So, first of all, who is a narcissist, and also relate this in the context of a relationship. So what is a narcissist, and you know, in relation to relationships?
Okay, let's start off by talking about what a narcissist is. So like a narcissist, I mean, people throw the word around a lot. So there's a difference between someone with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, and someone who is highly narcissistic, right? So in short, a narcissist for me is someone who is highly exploitative and lacks empathy. These are the two things that I think make up a highly narcissistic person. Now, NPD is something completely different, and you need to cover, like, you have to hit all 9 of the traits in the DSM-5 thing. What's the word? Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of mental disorders, basically. Am I making sense?
Yes. 100%.
Let me say that again. Go ahead. Okay. So in order for you to have NPD, you have to basically cover all 9 traits covered in the DSM-5. Okay. So that is you having a narcissistic personality disorder that's diagnosed. However, there are a lot of people out there who don't meet all 9 of the traits, but are highly narcissistic and are narcissistically abusive. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So that's not a narcissistic person in a nutshell.
Right. So basically what you're saying is some people behave in a particular way that is in the semblance of someone who's got NPD as a, you know, mental disorder or whatever. But then we just say, oh, you're a narcissist, but they don't actually have NPD. NPD is like a medical condition, and kind of different. Right. So one person has the disorder and one person just has the traits of
So someone might have the traits but not be diagnosed as an actual narcissist.
Right.
Which is narcissistic personality disorder. Now, in regards to a relationship, are you talking in regards to a relationship, narcissistic abuse? That's different again. But that's a different question. I'm not sure if you're asking that question yet.
So yes, as part of the question, you've defined what a narcissist is, or who a narcissist is, and what NPD is, and what the difference is. So in regards to a relationship, how would you define someone who is a narcissist in terms of an abusive relationship, like someone who fits that profile with regards to a relationship?
Okay, so in regards to narcissistic abuse, the narcissistic abuse follows 3 stages, and then the 4th one being the hoovering, right? So it starts with the love bombing or idealization phase, then we go into the devaluation, and then we go into the discard. So the love bombing phase is where you are the best thing in the world. Everything revolves around you. They can't do enough for you. They're at your beck and call. They're just basically bombing you with love, right? This is where they like express how amazing you are. It just goes on and on and on, right? It's just a love story at 10, right? And then you have the devaluation where they start to maybe make less of an effort. So, you know, in the love bombing phase, they might have been early to meet you on a day, and then they start arriving late, maybe not even apologizing for being late. They start doing things that devalue you. This is why it's called the devaluation stage, right? They might start criticizing you. They might start putting you down. They're doing subtle things at first and then more extreme things to make you feel like crap, basically. And then they finish it off with the discard, which is just dumping you in the most hurtful way they possibly can. And then they hoover and go back around to the first bit, which is the love bombing. But each time you go around the cycle, the love bombing stage gets shorter and the rest becomes longer. Does that make sense?
Longer, yes.
So the first time you might be love bombed for 6 months. The second time around, it might be a month or maybe 3 weeks or maybe a week. And they just get shorter and shorter, a week, a day, a couple of hours, and on and on and on, like that. So you can go around that cycle for a year, 5 years, 10 years, the list goes on. How long's a piece of string, basically?
Interesting, you know, just on the side. So obviously, the reason potentially why the love bombing stage actually gets shorter is because the first time they're trying to get you hooked. And then after they got you hooked, after the first maybe 6 months or so of love bombing, they have you hooked in the place where they need you. So when they go around to the other traits and then you feel like, okay, I've had enough, they go back to the love bombing, but they don't need to make so much effort because they know somehow you're hooked and you're not going anywhere. Is that, I don't know, is that why?
Yeah, they know your buttons. They know how to press your buttons now. They just tell you enough to get back through the door, and then they just start the cycle again. They don't care enough to give you that love bombing experience. In fact, they resent doing that. So you pay for the love bombing phase in the devaluation phase and the discard phase. So every time they have to love bomb, you're going to pay for that later.
Excellent.
That's why, and that's why with every cycle they get worse. Every time around, they get more and more and more abusive.
Right. Wow, that is really tricky. How does one identify a narcissist?
Okay, so, how to spot a narcissist? There are three main things that I would suggest you look out for. One, the love bombing. See, the love bombing is going to happen in a way where it just feels completely inauthentic to you. If you're listening to yourself, you're going to kind of sense like, actually, you don't know me well enough to say that you love me. We've only gone on 3 dates, right? Or, you know, you're going to feel as though it's just not real because they're complimenting you about things that time hasn't shown to be realistic. For example, they'll say things like, for example, you are such a kind person, although you've shown no evidence of actually being kind. They'll just throw insincere flattery at you, basically, during the love bombing phase. So you're going to know, if your ego's not in the way, you're going to know that it's not actually, it doesn't feel right, right? The second thing is to watch out for is the boundary pushing. So because a narcissist is always going to want to push your boundaries just because they want to push them. They don't want to feel like they have any limits with you. So they don't feel as though they should respect any of your boundaries. So in the early stages, they're going to push your boundaries in a nice way. And later on, they're going to push it in a not so nice way. So you might say, for example, that you have to study for a test the next day, and they turn up with flowers and invite you out to dinner. You know, so that's a push of your boundaries. It's a nice push of boundaries, like, wow, thank you for the surprise, but Didn't I just say that I needed to revise for an important test? You know, that sort of thing. So they'll do it in really subtle ways like that at first.
Yeah.
So watch out for the boundary pushing, and also the fast track of the relationship. Like they instantly in a relationship with you, they're going to fast track everything so that you don't really have time to think or absorb the situation and what's going on, or like accurately or logically assess what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are 3 things to look out for.
Fab. Right. I was going to ask more about narcissists, and obviously we're talking about spotting them. What are the 9 traits? And I know you've touched on a few of them, you know, in the early stages. What are the 9 traits of narcissists that you can actually just see it and know that this is it for what it is?
Okay, so the first one, and I've got a list here, so I'm just going to go through the list because I never list all 9 of them straight out. So let me go for it. So number 1, grandiose sense of self, sense of importance. So they're going to feel as though they are the most important thing in the world, more important than anybody else. That is key. Okay, they're going to believe as that they're going to not only believe that they're more important than you or anyone else, but they're going to feel like they're going to believe that they are smarter than everyone else as well.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to be preoccupied with success and power. They're going to be just imagining themselves as highly successful and powerful, and that's basically all they think about, right?
Okay.
Hence why they're so manipulative and exploitative, because they want to keep that power in their hands, right? In relationships and whatever. A belief that they are special and can only associate with other special and, you know, high status people, because those are the only people that understand them and can really connect with them. So they've got that kind of, I don't want to say snobbery, but kind of snobbery, right? It's like, you lowly people don't understand me. Only people with money and success can really understand where I'm coming from, type mentality, right? An excessive need for admiration. Now, this is where the triangulation and things like that come in, because they want you to admire them. And they see any kind of attention as admiration. So if you're feeling insecure, that in their minds translates as admiration for them, right? It translates as attention for them. So you don't necessarily have to be saying, oh, you're so wonderful. You might be saying, wow, he might leave me for her. And it equates to the same thing in their mind, right? A sense of entitlement. So they feel like, this is another reason why they resent the love bombing phase, because it's like, why do I have to do this? I should just get you for free. I don't like the fact that I have to make an effort for you, hence why you pay later. They feel like they're entitled to whatever they want, and they shouldn't have to do anything for it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's, where are we? We're at number 5. Exploitative in their behavior. They exploit everyone. Basically, they don't do something, or they will not do you a favor without having you pay for it later in some way, or taking advantage of you in some way, right? So if they're not directly taking advantage of you, they're making you pay in some way for the favor that they did, even if that favor is just something that you should just do as a normal human being, right? You know, sort of thing. My number 7 was the lack of empathy. This is the one that I think, if you see this, run for the hills. There's nothing else. If they are the 2, exploitative, and as soon as you see the exploitation, whether that be with you or someone else, and as soon as you see that lack of empathy, run. The rest doesn't even count. Run. You're not going to have a healthy relationship with that person. It's not going to happen, right? Envy of others, or believing that people are envious of them. This is a preoccupation in their mind. They're either really envious of other people, or they believe that people are envious of them. Yeah, in some way. And then the arrogance and hoity behavior, which really connects to the grandiose sense of self and the preoccupation with power and the, you know, sense of entitlement. They all kind of interlink. But yes, those are the 9 traits.
Wow, interesting. I like what you said about the empathy bit, because obviously the person that lacks empathy, like, where are you going to start with? What are you going to do with them? Really,
exactly.
Nothing to do there. Yeah.
You know, and it's important to understand that this lack of, they understand empathy, like they can see how you would feel bad about something that they did, hence why they're so good at like torturing you, but they do not connect to your, they don't feel bad that you feel bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they can see that how they can see how you might feel bad about the triangulation that they've created and how that would hurt you, but they don't care about your hurt, right? So this is what makes them like lethal in regards to their manipulation and their exploitation, because it's not as though they don't understand the concept. They fully understand the concept. They just don't connect with the feeling of it all.
Right.
Right?
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Wow. Amazing. I was gonna ask, like, how would you define, I mean, in saying all of this, how would you define narcissistic abuse? You know, how would you define that in your own terms?
Well, I said the 3 stages. That's narcissistic abuse in a nutshell. You know, in the devaluation stage, they're going to gaslight you, they're going to triangulate you, they're going to be doing all kinds of manipulative things in that time to rip you to shreds before discarding you. But the narcissistic abuse just follows that pattern over and over and over again.
I told you, this is Angelina. She knows all of this stuff. Got YouTube channel. She's got lots of stuff there. I will have her links in the description so you can check it out. And we're only going through like summaries of this. If you want to have like in-depth knowledge about each of these topics, she's got tons of videos and all that sort of sources that can help you.
With an empath, it's easier for them to be covert about their narcissistic abuse. Much easier, right? Because they're working off vibes.
Right.
So that's that, basically, in the nutshell.
Wow, this is so much. I feel like my head is gonna explode with all this information. So guys, like I said, this is Angelina. She's amazing, as you can see. She knows this stuff, and obviously we've had to rush through 1 million questions in a short time, bullet points, just trying to summarize. If you need to know more about this, you will need to check on her channel. And I say this a lot. If you are someone, if you just sat down here listening to this, it means that potentially there is an issue in your house. So you want to get in touch with Angelina. You want to check out her YouTube channel, see the stuff where she's got. I like the episode, the series I like is No BS. Like she just says it as it is. You know, she just tells you like this is what it is. You know, wake up. You know, get on with it. Well, as we're coming to the end of this interview, what I wanted you to do is tell us more about some of the programs and things you do to, like, you know, help people find their bearing after abuse. You know, tell us a bit more about yourself. I think I saw something about you writing a book. You know?
Yes. I'm just putting the finishing touches on my book, which should be coming out very, very soon. To pre-order very, very soon. I'm not going to put any dates on that, but it's within the next month or so. We will be out and about with the new book. Also, I run a free program, a free email support program where you can basically work on rebuilding in self-love, confidence, and personal power. I do the YouTube channel, which is basically more around leveling up and empowering yourself after the relationship. Whereas the podcast is more focused on the toxic and abusive type dynamics and helping you to work out sort out the forest from the trees, basically. Help you to work out what you've been through, what dynamics you've been a part of, what type of manipulations you've been a target of, and kind of sort that out in your own head, right? So that's what the podcast is all about. So if you are actually in an abusive relationship or just coming out of it, or just coming out of a toxic situation with an F-boy and you're just basically hurting, because a lot of the F-boy type symptoms are very similar to the narcissistic type patterns, okay? So things like that. So if you're coming out of any toxic situation, that would be the place to, and you're kind of confused, that would be the place to start, rather than the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is kind of like, I've been in a toxic and abusive relationship, I'm out of it now, where do we go from here type of situation, right? How do I keep you know, how do I keep leveling up and making sure I'm not dropping my stance and making sure I am not in narcissistic territory, making sure I'm not in the toxic zone. That is what the YouTube channel is about, right? But the podcast, like I said, is more about, you know, I'm in it or I've just stepped out of it. Help me to understand it. Help me to understand where I've been. Help me to understand what I need to do to empower myself moving forward. My Living Warrior community, which is on Instagram at Living Warriors. Check that out. Daily content to help you kind of live more empowered, remind you about all the kind of toxic type dynamics you might have been a part of, and all of that stuff. It's a great community. Come join the community, and that's basically it. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Wow. Well, thank you for coming on board. I've had such an amazing time interviewing you, listening to this stuff. I've learned so much. I need ice cream to just like calm down. It's just so much. I feel like my head is about to explode. So thank you very much. It's amazing to have you here. So much knowledge, and I hope to interview again sometime soon.
It was an absolute pleasure to be here, and anytime. Excellent.
One love, sister.